Have you ever reached that breaking point, the one where your own family stops feeling like home, and you finally realize that love shouldn't mean being used? That's where I was the day my mom told me I'd have to pay double rent, just so my unemployed brother and his family could live comfortably in the house I'd called home for years. Before I go on, make sure to subscribe to her Retaliation for more real life stories about standing up for yourself, setting boundaries, and reclaiming your peace. And if you've ever felt taken for granted by your own family, hit the like button and share your story in the comments because you're not alone. My name is Maggie, and for years I thought being the good daughter meant always saying yes. When my parents offered me to rent their small 2-bedroom house after college, I accepted without hesitation. They said it would help me learn responsibility, and I genuinely believed them. Every month, I transferred rent to my mom's account, never missed a single payment. I even paid for the maintenance, the garden, and small repairs. Life was simple, quiet. I'd wake up early for my nursing shifts, come home exhausted, cook my own dinner, and call Mom to check in. She'd usually talk about Marcus, my older brother, who was still figuring things out. That phrase became like an echo in our family. Marcus was always figuring something out, and yet he never seemed to actually do anything. He was 35, married to a woman named Kelly with 2 adorable kids. But unlike me, Marcus didn't pay rent. He didn't work either. Every few months, he'd have some new idea, a podcast, a food truck, an online shop, but it never went anywhere. And somehow, Mom always found a way to defend him. "Maggie, he just needs a break," she'd say. "Marcus has had a break for 10 years. I once muttered under my breath. I thought it was harmless, their enabling, until the day it became my problem. It was a Sunday morning. I just finished my overnight shift, still in my scrubs, when Mom called and said, "Sweetheart, can you come over for lunch? We need to talk." Those 4 words, "we need to talk," should have warned me. I drove to their house exhausted, hoping maybe it was just a family lunch. But when I stepped into the living room, Marcus and Kelly were already there, sitting on the couch with the kids playing on the floor. Everyone looked a little too serious. Mom smiled nervously. "Honey, there's been a small change in plans." Marcus cleared his throat. "We're moving into the property," he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I froze. "Wait. My place." Dad looked at the floor. "Your brother's been going through a hard time, Maggie. His landlord raised the rent again. He can't afford it. We thought maybe you could help out." "Help out?" I asked slowly. Mom clasped her hands. "You'll just move your things into the smaller room, and since there'll be more people using utilities and all, we'll have to raise your rent a bit, just to be fair." My mouth went dry. "Raise my rent? How much?" "Double," she said, as if it was completely reasonable. I laughed, but it came out sharp and broken. "You want me to pay double rent for my own room, while my unemployed brother moves into the one I've been living in for years?" Mom frowned. "Don't be selfish, Maggie. Family helps each other. You've always been the strong one." That line, "you've always been the strong one," felt like a punch, because what it really meant was, you can handle being used. I felt anger rise in my chest, but I kept quiet. I knew if I argued, I'd be painted as the villain, the ungrateful daughter, the one who didn't care about her brother's kids. So I nodded, stood up, and said, "I'll think about it." But inside, I'd already made my decision. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my apartment, the space I'd paid for, cared for, and realized it wasn't really mine. It never had been. My parents had turned my independence into another way to control me. That's when the idea hit me. If they wanted me gone, they could have it, but I wouldn't go empty-handed. Over the next week, I quietly made plans. I found a small apartment 20 minutes away, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I paid the deposit in secret. Every night after work, I packed 1 or 2 boxes, labeling them in small handwriting so it wouldn't look suspicious. I even smiled during dinner when Mom called. I listened as she told me how excited Marcus was to move in. "You'll love having the kids around," she said. "It'll make the house lively again." I just murmured, "Yet can't wait." Inside, I was counting the days. Then one Friday evening, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Mom said, "We're coming over tomorrow morning with Marcus to start moving things in. We'll help you shift your stuff into the smaller room." Perfect, I thought. That meant they'd all be out of the house tonight, one last quiet night before the storm. As soon as they left, I got to work. I packed every last item, my clothes, my books, my grandmother's photo frames, even the small plant I kept by the kitchen window. I wiped every surface clean, left the keys on the table, and took one last look at the empty space that had once been my home. It felt strange, not sad, just final. Then I walked out, locked the door, and drove away. No note, no goodbye, no explanations. By morning, I was gone. When my phone started ringing hours later, I ignored it. The first few calls were from Mom, then Marcus, then Mom again. Finally, a message came through. Mom, Maggie, what have you done? Your brother is here. The house is empty. Marcus, real mature Maggie. You just abandoned your family like that. I didn't reply. I was sitting in my new apartment, surrounded by half-open boxes, eating cheap takeout from a paper container, and for the first time in years, I felt peace, no guilt, no obligation, just quiet. Days turned into a week. Then, too, Mom stopped calling. Dad texted once you could have handled it better. I didn't respond, but then something unexpected happened. A month later, my aunt called me, half laughing, half gossiping. You won't believe what's happening, she said. Marcus finally got a job. I blinked. You're kidding. Nope, your mom told everyone how you abandoned them, but now Marcus is working full-time at a warehouse. They're even struggling to make ends meet. Maybe that was the wake-up call they needed. For the first time, I smiled, genuinely smiled. I didn't hate them. I wasn't even angry anymore. I just realized that sometimes walking away isn't cruel. Sometimes it's the only way people learn to stand on their own. And for me, it was the only way to finally breathe. Because when you stop letting people drain you, even when those people are your family, that's when you finally start living. When I moved into my new apartment, it didn't feel like much at first. The walls were bare, the kitchen was small, and the floor creaked whenever I walked across it. But it was mine. Every inch of that little space belonged to me, not my parents, not Marcus, not anyone else, just me. The first morning there, I woke up to sunlight pouring through the thin curtains, the smell of fresh coffee filling the air. I sat by the window with my mug and felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. There were no expectations, no guilt trips, no family demands waiting to ambush me, just quiet, just peace. For a few days, I didn't answer anyone's calls. I focused on unpacking, organizing, and breathing. But the silence from my family eventually turned into noise again this time, through texts, voicemails, and relatives who suddenly just wanted to check in. Aunt Linda called first. Maggie, honey, your mom's been crying, she said softly. She says you broke her heart. I sighed. She broke mine a long time ago, Aunt Linda. I just finally stopped pretending it didn't hurt. There was a long pause on the line. You know, she said, sometimes people only learn when you stop rescuing them. That sentence stuck with me. I didn't hate my family, no matter how angry I'd been. I just wanted to stop being their safety net. And if disappearing was what it took for them to finally stand on their own, then so be it. 2 weeks later, I went back to work full-time at the hospital. It was exhausting as always, but different now. When I finished a shift, I actually had a home to go to that didn't drain me emotionally. I even started taking care of myself, cooking instead of ordering takeout, walking after dinner, reading before bed. I hadn't realized how much emotional clutter I'd been carrying until it was gone. Then one afternoon during my lunch break, I ran into someone unexpected, Kelly, my brother's wife. She looked tired. The kind of tired you can't hide behind makeup. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled. We both froze. Maggie, she said, almost whispering. I nodded slowly. Hey, Kelly. For a moment, neither of us knew what to say. Then she sighed. You really did it, huh? Just left. I had to. I said quietly. She looked down at her coffee. Marcus has been furious, but I think he's finally realizing how much you actually did. He got a job. I raised an eyebrow. A real one, she laughed weakly. Warehouse work, long hours. He comes home exhausted. He's never done that before. I felt a strange mix of emotions, pride, disbelief, a little sadness. Maybe it's good for him, I said. It is, she admitted. He's different, still frustrated, but it's like he's waking up. Your parents too. They've been quieter lately. Your mom doesn't defend him as much. Your dad's even helping with the kids. I didn't know what to say. For so long, I had believed they'd never change, that they'd always see me as the responsible one and Marcus as the fragile one. But maybe leaving was the shock they needed. Kelly hesitated. They miss you, you know. Your mom. She cries at night. Not that it excuses anything, but I know. I said softly, but I can't go back to being the one who fixes everything. I love them, but I love my peace more. We stood there for another moment, and then Kelly hugged me quick, awkward, but genuine. I get it, she whispered. I really do. After she left, I sat alone in the hospital courtyard, watching people rush by. It was strange how life could keep moving even when your family fell apart. But that's the thing about boundaries, they don't destroy relationships. They reveal which ones were built on respect and which ones were built on control. That night, I got a message from Mom. It was short. Mom, I hope you're okay, we miss you. I stared at it for a long time before replying. Me, I'm okay, Mom. I just needed space. I hope you're all doing well. No blame, no guilt, just truth. Weeks passed, and slowly, communication began again, small, polite, careful. Dad texted me updates about his garden. Mom sent pictures of the kids. Marcus didn't say much, but that was fine. I wasn't expecting apologies anymore. I was just happy to see some growth, any growth. One evening, I went grocery shopping after a long shift. As I was walking down the aisle, I spotted Marcus. He didn't notice me at first, but when he did, he froze. Maggie. He said, his tone guarded. I smiled faintly. Hey. He nodded, then looked away. For a second, it seemed like he might just leave, but then he spoke. You really left us hanging. I took a deep breath. Marcus, I was hanging for years. You just never noticed. He didn't argue. He just stared at the floor. It's been rough. He said finally, working every day, paying bills. I didn't realize how hard you had it. I know, I said gently. But now you do? He nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess I do. We stood there in silence, surrounded by the quiet hum of the store. Then, in a low voice, he said something I never expected to hear. Thanks for leaving. It took me a second to process that. What? He gave a small, tired smile. If you hadn't, I'd still be lazy. Mom and Dad would still be babying me. I needed to wake up. I needed to fail. I swallowed hard. I didn't leave to punish you, Marcus. I know, he said. You left to save yourself, but you ended up saving the rest of us too. I felt tears well up, unexpected and raw. For years, I'd carried the weight of being the strong one, the responsible one. And in that grocery aisle, I finally felt it lift. When I got home that night, I sat on my couch, turned off my phone, and just breathed. For the first time in a long time, my heart felt light. Sometimes the biggest act of love isn't staying, it's walking away so everyone can grow. And for me, that walk wasn't just about leaving a house. It was about leaving behind a version of myself that believed I had to earn my family's respect by suffering for it. Now I know better. I go to work, pay my bills, and live quietly. My relationship with my parents is cautious but improving. Marcus keeps his job. Kelly and the kids are doing okay. And me, I finally feel whole. Because freedom doesn't always come wrapped in joy. Sometimes it starts with heartbreak and ends with peace. It had been 6 months since I left my parents' house. 6 months of quiet mornings, steady work, and peaceful evenings. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that was enough. Then one rainy Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer when I saw Mom's name on the screen. But something in my gut told me to pick up. Maggie, she said, her voice trembling. Your father's in the hospital. I froze. What happened? He fainted in the garden. She cried. They said it's nothing, life. Threatening. But they want to keep him for observation. Can you come? Before I could think, I was already grabbing my keys. No matter what had happened between us, he was still my dad. And deep down, I knew I'd regret it forever if I didn't go. The hospital was quiet when I arrived, a strange calm that hung in the air. When I walked into his room, Mom was sitting beside the bed, her eyes red from crying. Dad looked pale but awake. He smiled weakly when he saw me. There's my girl. My throat tightened. Hey, Dad. Mom stood up, her hands twisting nervously. I didn't think you'd come. I wanted to be angry at the way she said it like a challenge, but I couldn't. Not now, of course I came, I said softly. Dad chuckled faintly. Guess it takes a hospital bed to get the whole family in one room again. The door opened, and Marcus walked in a few moments later with Kelly and the kids. He looked different, leaner, older, grounded somehow. When our eyes met, he gave me a small nod. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. We all sat there together, the silence heavy but not hostile. For the first time in a long while, no one was yelling, no one was demanding. We were just a family, broken, bruised, but still standing. Later, when Dad fell asleep, Mom and I stepped out into the hallway. She looked smaller, somehow fragile, in a way I'd never noticed before. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly, her voice shaking. I turned to her, stunned. "I shouldn't have asked you to pay more rent. I shouldn't have taken your kindness for granted." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was helping Marcus by protecting him, but I was really just hurting both of you." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The apology I'd dreamed of for years was finally here, and it didn't feel triumphant, it just felt sad. "Mom," I said quietly, "I know you meant well. You just never realized how much it cost me to keep the peace." She nodded, crying silently. "You were always the strong one. I leaned on that too much." I smiled faintly. "You can stop calling me that now. I'm tired of being the strong one. I just want to be your daughter." Her lips trembled, and she pulled me into a hug, the kind of hug that wasn't about guilt or pressure, just love. When we went back into the room, Marcus was sitting by Dad's bed, helping the kids draw on a piece of paper. He looked up as we walked in. "Dad says he'll be fine," he said. "They just want to keep him overnight." I nodded. "That's good." Kelly smiled at me. "I told him you'd come." Dad stirred and opened his eyes again. "You all look so serious. Someone tell a joke." We laughed quietly, awkwardly, but it felt good, real. Later that night, as everyone left and I walked out into the rain, Marcus caught up with me in the parking lot. "Hey," he said, shoving his hands in his jacket pockets. "Mom told me what she said." "Yeah," he nodded. "I'm glad she did. You deserved that." He paused, then added, "I'm sorry too for everything." I looked at him, trying to find the words, but all I could manage was a small smile. "I know, Marcus." He looked down at the wet pavement. "You were right, you know. Walking away was what we all needed. I just didn't see it then. None of us did." I said softly. He gave me a crooked grin. "Guess we're all growing up late, huh? Better late than never." He chuckled. "Hey, maybe one day you'll come by for dinner. The kids miss you. I'll even cook." I laughed that I'd like to see. He grinned and turned to leave. "Take care of yourself, Maggie. You too, Marcus." When I got home, I stood in my small apartment, my sanctuary, and looked around. The rain tapped gently against the window, and for the first time I didn't feel lonely. I felt complete. Family doesn't always mean closeness. Sometimes it means distance. Sometimes love looks like silence for a while, and healing looks like space. Months later, Dad fully recovered. We started having small family dinners again, no pressure, no expectations. Just a meal, a laugh, a few awkward pauses, and a new kind of peace. One evening, as we sat around the table, Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you, Maggie," she said, "not just for what you've done, but for knowing when to walk away." I smiled, eyes stinging. "I'm proud of you too, Mom, for learning to let go." Marcus raised his glass of water. "To growth, even when it's late." We all laughed, and for a brief moment, it felt like we'd found something new, not the old version of family that demanded sacrifices, but something healthier, something honest. That night, when I drove home under the soft glow of streetlights, I thought about everything I'd been through, the guilt, the anger, the tears, the silence, and I realized something. Freedom doesn't mean cutting people off forever. It means learning to stand tall enough that no one, not even the people you love, can make you small again. Sometimes the only way to save your family is to save yourself first, and that's exactly what I did. Subscribe to Retaliation for more stories about self, worth, boundaries, and emotional freedom. If you've ever had to walk away to find peace, tell your story in the comments. You never know who needs to hear it.